Unless you've had your head buried in the sand, you've noticed that we've had a lot of technological innovations in our industry. Some of the most interesting to me are 3D printing, new aligner properties, but it gets very confusing. So today, we're going to break it down. Our Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast sponsors make it possible for us to bring you new episodes. Cale Owen is revolutionizing orthodontics by turning the chaos of conventional braces into custom control. Their custom digital solution helps you achieve consistent results while saving on average over 7 appointments per patient. It's custom done right, so you can focus on delivering amazing smiles. Find out how Cale Owen can modernize your practice. Book a demo today and get $250 off when you mention People in Practice to your representative. Created by an orthodontist, Grin is redefining remote monitoring with a cost-effective solution that boosts practice efficiency while delivering personalized care for each patient. Grin provides you with dedicated assistance, enabling you to focus on providing exceptional care, all while saving valuable time for you and your patients. New customers can save up to 35% on their starter package. Transform your practice. Better care begins with Grin. To find out more about our podcast sponsors, visit pplpractice.com/partners.
The future of orthodontics is evolving and changing every day. But although the way to achieve practice growth has changed, there's never been a better time to be an orthodontist. Let's get into the minds of industry leaders, forward-thinking orthodontists, and technology insiders to learn how they see the future of the orthodontic specialty. How will digital orthodontics, artificial intelligence, clear aligner therapy, remote monitoring, in-house printing, and other innovations change the way you practice? Join your hosts Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein each month as they bring you insights, tips, and guest interviews focused on helping you capitalize on the opportunities for practice growth. And now, welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics with the co-founders of People in Practice, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein.
Welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. My name is Leon Klempner. If you don't know me, I've been around the industry for a while. After retiring from clinical practice, I began my next chapter helping orthodontists grow their practices. I co-founded People in Practice, a marketing and consulting agency, and also continued teaching residents. I'm currently the director and the craniofacial orthodontist at Mount Sinai Hospitals here in New York and part-time faculty at Harvard Orthodontics. And today I am joined by my co-founder and, more importantly, my daughter, Amy Epstein. How you doing, Amy?
I'm doing really well. Good to see you today. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, if you don't know my dad, you probably have heard of him or you've seen him because he's hard to miss if you're walking around, for example, the AAO. He's like about 6'4", silver-haired guy. You can find him in a crowd very
Salt
easily.
and pepper. Salt and pepper.
There's not a lot of pepper there, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm Amy Epstein. I have an MBA in marketing, and we were just talking to our guests a little bit earlier that maybe when I finished, I guess it was almost 12 years ago at this point, and I finished my MBA, and my dad was like, I think there's something here in the orthodontic industry. I'm getting these questions about how I'm marketing my practice and how I'm attracting new patients and going through all these different transitions, opening up locations, bringing on partners, this type of thing. I think that we can help together. And turns out he was right. So we've been working together since, and we have a dozen people that we work with across the US to help orthodontists through all the different types of changes and phases and opportunities that are being presented in this ever-changing industry. And we're going to talk about one of those changes today, as my dad hinted at. And that's why we're really happy to have on our podcast today, Dr. Neil Warshawsky. And Neil, I'm going to call you Neil. Neil is I'm sure you know him because like my dad, Neil has been around. He's an excellent orthodontist, but he's also very involved in the industry. So he's a board certified orthodontist with over 30 years of experience And he's a leader in integrating advanced technologies into orthodontic care. This is what makes him very interesting to us, and interesting in general if you talk to him. He's the founder of Get It Straight Orthodontics, which is a multi-location practice in the Chicago area. He's also runs the ortho department as an associate professor at the University of Illinois, focusing on craniofacial orthodontics. He is an active lecturer, a published author, and he's an advocate for direct 3D printing and digital workflows in modern orthodontics. He's also a speaker for a lot of the companies that we see at the AAO and that we are learning about to see if they're a good fit for our practices. Lux Creo, Ortho FX, ULab, Brias, KLON, Lightforce, you name it, he knows a lot. So Neil, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you for having me. And just for a correction, I run orthodontics in the Craniofacial Center. We're side by side with orthodontics.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But that's my alma mater. I went to school there.
Okay. Very good.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Neil. I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while, so it's finally come to fruition. So I do appreciate it. So as you know, as Amy mentioned before, at the AAO meetings, you'll find me walking around, and I'm always looking for what's new, what's developing, how I could leverage it with our practices that we do all our marketing for. So I'm always looking at ways that, innovations that are going to impact the industry. And lo and behold, I see Neil doing some demo somewhere in the middle of the thing with a big crowd around him. So I weasel my way up to the front, and lo and behold, I see this machine that is spitting out aligners, and I don't see the casts. And I said, this is going to be a game changer. So
I remember this, by the way. He came back to our booth and said, I found a game changer. And so I'm not making this up for your benefit, Neil, but he did say that. And we, started doing some research. Yeah.
I mean, so tell us a little bit about how you got involved, and just give us a brief overview of how you use it and what your connection was.
Okay. So my background was one of the many KOL positions I've had over the last 30 years was I was the Dentsply key opinion leader for Raintree, Essex. So I spoke a lot about thermoforming. I mean, I could spit out stats on plastic, velocities of tooth movement, stuff like that. I helped build the MTM system for them back in the day. That was their first clear aligner system. Then I went over to, I was already a speaker at 3M, helped build, I was one of two guys behind Clarity, so built the Clarity aligner system. So I'm a thermoforming guy at heart, right? And I was a key guy at Invisalign 1999. We were right at the beginning, we were using Invisalign. But, anyone who uses clear aligners knows there's limits, right? And there's a lot of orthodontists out there that says they can do everything with a clear aligner. And I'm just suspicious of people when they say everything and always, because there's always exceptions to a rule, period. And I believe in custom care. So I think using the same appliance to do something for everyone just doesn't make sense. So the problem now is the largest company in the world that makes clear aligners by far is Align Technology. They make 1 million aligners a day, roughly. And they, in my mind, are a marketing company, right? They are really fast to be as I say, the Kleenex, right? Which is tissue paper. They are the Kleenex to the clear aligner world. Everyone knows the name Invisalign. I left them probably. I'm still a user of it. I don't really order too many cases anymore. But but if someone says, this is what I want, I'll give them what they want if that's really what they want. There are just better products out there, and I'm not saying bad or good. I'm not disparaging the product, but they're using a platform and technology that isn't really necessarily evolving. Right? They're using thermoform technology. They're still using stereolithography. They're still printing models and blowing stuff down. So one of the things that I learned along the way was, so I'm really into, because of my craniofacial background, trying to functionally grow people. And I've been working on a project for about 8.5 years to build a class 2 corrector that's just better than Herbst or Headgear or Mara, Carrier, name it. It's a skeletal corrector, right? And, I want to print it, right? Ultimately, the holy grail is to print it as a part of an aligner. And when I started doing my homework, I realized that no printers could do it. So I started looking at Graphy, which was the direct print material that I knew of because they advertised. And I was talking to Ki-Bom Kim, who does a lot of the research at St. Louis University, and he runs the department there. And he really grounded me and kind of explained to me what it does and doesn't do well. And, I learned the process of how it cures in a nitrogen environment and this and that. And I started digging a little bit about looking for their patents. And what I realized is they weren't on the patents for direct print technology. It was a company called Lux Creo. I'm like, who are these guys? Right. So I did a little homework and learned who they were. And so I called the head of sales. I'm like, hey, I'd like to have a key opinion. I want to talk to your key opinion leader because I have a lot of questions here and I'm trying to do something. I just don't understand this. And he's like, well, and the sales guy, his name is Kevin Dillon, was incredibly knowledgeable about this industry. Like he, more than anyone I'd ever met. So it was really, we had a fascinating talk. And at the end of the day, he says, we have a technology office in Chicago. If you ever want to go to Chicago. And I started laughing because, it's like the technology office is 2 blocks from my daughter's apartment. And I'm like, yeah, I actually know the building. So anyways, it was just a quick love story. I walked in. It was like, a fat kid in a candy store. I just went berserk on these guys asking a million questions and they just fed my passion and just let me learn. And it's been a fascinating love affair ever since. So I'm, just one of a couple people that help them, but I really love these guys because they don't believe that there are limits to what they can do. And it's that brash stubbornness that really is kind of what we all share in common. Because I don't know a single person that made it through orthodontic school without being some type of a thoroughbred, right? You have to be like just ridiculous. It's something to get through school because it's such a long process. And really a bunch of talented people, very, 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 very humble. And just I was blown away when I realized that they didn't create resin. They actually created an ecosystem and wrote all the patents. And that's kind of where the direct print stuff for me really kind of started to change my practice. And let me tell you, this is all new. It's all roughly about a year ago. So let me ask you something. I don't want to interrupt you, but just for my own clarification, and maybe some of our listeners might have this question as well. Is Lux Creo, is it a material? Is it like a liquid, or is it a machine? What exactly is it? It's an ecosystem. So this is a group of people from all different backgrounds, and I mean like all different backgrounds. One guy is a material science guy that designed the skin on the 787 airplane. They created a system. So they built a printer. They created resins for different purposes, not just for orthodontics. They created resins. They've learned what's needed in dentistry, and they've built their system to solve solutions. So they do make 3 resins that I use every single day. One is a nightguard resin. One is what we call DCA, which is direct clear aligner resin, and the third one is a model resin. So those are theirs. They have the ability to do other things like all-on-4 dentistry. When you're sitting on implants and stuff, they can print the denture, the teeth, pretty much anything that can be printed, they can build as a rule.
So it's software as well as the hardware, as well as the resin?
Yeah. And because they built the entire system together, right? And, direct clear aligners are using some called shape memory resin, which, if you don't know your materials in this space, is super weird compared to thermoforming plastic. Because in thermoforming plastic, we heat the plastic to somewhere around 414 degrees for a set period of time, and then you blow it down using a positive pressure machine. If you're a real doctor, some people still use the old vacuum formers, but they're just not that good for this type of stuff. And then After you blow it down, you cut it out, you polish it, but it's a polished sheet of plastic that you're blowing down because it's soft. In the direct print world, one of the issues is how do you polish it, right? So they pioneered digital printing, digital polishing while it's printing. So pieces come off the printer polished. It's like insane. Your night guards are already clear when it comes off the printer. So their ability to reduce the amount of time to process something at the end is actually huge. But more so with direct printing, there is no model. So I'm on the ecology side of this. I think if you realize that Align technology produces 1 million models a day, you have to ask yourself, where do the 1 million models a day go? Because they are not recycling them. They don't recycle their plastic. It's too expensive. So they are going in the garbage somewhere or into a fish hatchery or somewhere in the ocean. But, maybe they're getting chipped. I have no idea, but they're not using a recyclable material. A company like ULab, for instance, right? ULab is our in-office system. Okay, they recycle 80% of their materials in their Memphis facility. So, and we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick follow-up on that question is, before the show, we were talking a little bit about how you found Lux Creo, but you said it was out of necessity. And so I want to ask you about that.
Okay. So if you ever had the opportunity to meet like someone like Dwight Damon or someone who's like big in the industry, I think we all have one thing in common, which is we're all passionate about something, right? Some people it's about golf. Some people it's about working out. I love listening to orthopreneurs and ortho pearls because when they do their podcasts and you meet these guys or you listen to them, I feel like I'm not the only idiot in the room, right? Like we're all so intense about stuff. So in my case, I came out of school. I've wanted to be an orthodontist since I was 5. Okay. Like I got dragged along when my sister was getting her phase 1 at 8 years old. And the orthodontist, who happened to be my cousin, would let me sit in the back with him and hand him instruments. And I'd wash my hands with Neutrogena soap. And to this day, when I smell Neutrogena soap, the hair on the back of my neck stands up because it's such a visceral effect for me. But, I was very passionate, like going through school, like high school, college. I'm like, I'm going to be an orthodontist. I never said I'm going to be a dentist because I didn't really understand that. Right. And it all worked out. Right. But I entered orthodontics with one purpose in life other than, to make a living, which was I want to leave it better than how I found it. And because of my role in craniofacial for 30 plus years, mostly at U of I and University of Chicago, I really want to see, certain things evolve. And my biggest topic has been class 2. And so I wrote a patent about 8 years ago with a friend of mine who a lot of you know. His name is Adam Schulhoff, who has created Grin. I'm an advisor for Grin as well. But, so Adam and I and another friend of ours, we wrote a class 2 patent. And then, Adam's project at Grin took off. So, he's doing that. And our other buddy, he has a sleep apnea company. So he's in his. So I was left holding the bag on the class 2 thing, but that was mostly my idea. And it's been a project of mine that there's got to be something better out there, right? Better than headgear that can grow people. And so when I realized I want to do it on an aligner, that's how I found Lux Creo, because they're the only printer who can actually print what I'm trying to make.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. So it seems like I watched some of your presentations in the past, so I know a little bit about the Lux Creo process, and there are obviously doctor benefits, time, cost efficiency. But at the same time, there are companies that offer us the opportunity to shop out manufacturing of aligners as well. So how do you see the industry taking shape? Or is it like everyone's going to be buying this ecosystem? Are we shopping it out? Or is it hybrid?
No, I don't think everyone's going to buy it. So I think, the first thing you have to be honest to yourself and you have to say is do you want to do lab work? I like doing lab work. If it's not patient forward and I'm making stuff in the lab, I find that kind of relaxing in a weird way. Like I can sit down on a Friday night and bend 7 Hyrexes and watch a movie and not even think about it, So your practice has to have the right clientele to begin with, right? We see a lot of adults. And I think, it's not about, knocking a grand slam out of the park every time. You don't have to have a full case in order to make people happy. And that's kind of one of those tough lessons I've kind of learned to accept, that, people don't always want a full correction. People want 2 teeth moved in their social 6 and they'll rave about you, So it's like, so I think the concept that I tell people is under promise and over perform. That's where direct print comes in, because direct print oftentimes uses little to no attachments, right? That's a big deal when you have somebody who's like in their middle of their career and they're vain and they don't want to be able to have a bunch of crap on their teeth, and I'm sure we've all seen the case that, so someone walks in with a removable product, they have 60 attachments on their teeth. And I'm like, why didn't you just put braces on that would have looked better? So it's sort of kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone when you're able to make a decision between thermoforming versus direct printing, right? Direct printing is a little more accurate. The tray definitely is acutely tighter. It's a better fit, and you can make it even tighter through the software settings. So depending on what your goal is, if you have a tooth that's being uncooperative, oftentimes you'll see me, like, if I have a thermoforming case and something's not responding, I'll rescan it. And I'll specifically put it in direct print at that point to finish whatever's just not happening with a thermoformed aligner. It's interesting. They have different qualities,
The happiest day in my career, one of the happiest days in my career, is when I started sending out all of my retainers and my models, and I got rid of the plaster and I got rid of all of that stuff in the lab. I was just so happy to just write a script and then just get it back and not deal with, covering the lab. And, you need trained people, and it was just messy, and you were breathing in all of this junk, and we had methyl methacrylate and all this type of stuff. So I'd be one that would want to farm this stuff out. So how does that work? Who am I farming to, and how does that work?
So we are a mix of both, right? I still believe, like I told you up front at the beginning, I speak for Ortho FX. I believe that it's kind of like a kitchen, right? There are some things you can do by heart, and there's some things that take a little bit of time. And when I see a very involved, intricate case, I still think, and most importantly, when I'm polling my patient and really, questioning them, like, what's your goals? What's your objectives? How much do you want to be a participating factor here? When I hear that they don't want to wear stuff full time, I'm immediately like, okay, we're giving you a premium product. We're going to give you nighttime from Ortho FX, which is the only product I use from Ortho FX. Because that's the only product out of about 100 companies on the market right now that says that it doesn't have to be worn more than, a minimum of 9 to 12 hours a day. Every other product is 22 hours a day, which is pretty much the speech we give everybody. Like, take it off for meals, brush your teeth. If you're going out for an hour, you can leave it off, but otherwise get it back on, right? With Ortho FX, they're the only animal in the whole industry that builds a tray differently. And it's interesting because they're the guys that started Invisalign. All 4 of the owners are from Invisalign. One was a finance person who ultimately ran the company. That's Nicole. Ren was the person who launched all the products from 2012 to 2016. Locke is the guy who built all the resins, who we'll talk about him in a second. And Henry's the guy who did ClinCheck and for the iTero, he did the simulator. So, when you get those four people, honestly, like between Henry and Locke, honestly, they created the clear aligner industry in my mind. No 2 people have been more influential, forward facing in my mind than those 2 people. Locke built what you call today the active plastic at Invisalign, which is SmartTrack. He left Invisalign and he went to a company called Bay Materials. He created a reversed version of that, which is called FLX, which is by far the most popular plastic in the industry. Many companies literally take that plastic and they use it for their aligner system. Perfect example is ClearCorrect. ClearCorrect is owned by Straumann. Straumann bought Bay Materials. It wasn't the greatest aligner system. I'm sorry if you use it. That's my own personal thoughts. But then they bought FLX and they put FLX into ClearCrack, and ClearCrack got better because he's a premium material. So, Spark from Invista uses FLX. It's private labeled. Great Lakes sells it as a private label. So there's a lot of companies who use that material. And the reason being is it's really that good. As plastic goes, it's worth $4 a sheet because it actually performs. There are a couple companies now that make their own stuff. One of the newest ones to the market, who's really been incredibly aggressive, is Angel Aligners. Right, that's the number 2 company in the world right now behind Invisalign, but they're number 1 in China. And you'll have mixed feelings from different people about that, but they make a really good product. I have to say, I can't beat them up because I've tried a couple cases and their customer service was great. They were very responsive. A couple of my friends are the key opinion leaders over there. One of the sales guys is a good friend of mine who I know from 3M when we were doing Clarity. And it's just, they're growing like gangbusters because they're cheaper and they are very focused on the consumer, meaning as the orthodontist, our experience. So, and they are just 100% automated. If you see how they make stuff in their factories, it's insanely cool to watch. I mean, it's crazy.
I've heard a lot of positive things about their software. They're using a lot of AI. They'll give you like CBM, a lot of interesting areas. They'll, landmarks on a Ceph, they'll deliver all of that. So I've heard a lot of
they have a class 2 correcting system as well.
Yeah. So let me take you back to the nighttime aspect of Ortho FX, because to me that's a significant benefit to the end user, to the patients, right?
Very disruptive.
If you can offer that. Yeah. So I don't understand what is so special that you could get the same result in half the time with this particular plastic.
Okay.
I don't get that.
So, if you're a numbers person and, you just want to know just in general how products perform, the only benchmark article that I know about Invisalign is Neil Kravitz's article in 2022, which shows that Invisalign takes about 2 years and 3 refinements to complete. And, so it's an honest study. It was retrospective. It studied several hundred cases though. So, and that was a much bigger study versus his master's thesis. So he did the same thing 10 years earlier. And we all love Neil because today he's super humble. He's very positive and complimentary to everybody in the industry. And we need more people like him. I'm a big fan. So he's got a good name too. So, when you look at the first 10,000 cases that came out of Ortho FX, which were not nighttime, they were just their Tetra material, which is their 22-hour wear. In their first 10,000 cases that they finished, documented, 79% of the time, the cases were completed with the original trays and a refinement, I believe, of less than 10 trays. So those are really good numbers, right? So the group that ran that company walked into my office in 2018 and asked me if I would look at Tetra. I don't know why they were interested in me, but we all kind of knew each other. And I said, you know what, look, guys, I'm under contract at 3M because of Clarity. I can't even talk to you. And I basically threw them out. I finished my project during COVID in 2022, and January 7th in 2023, they walked in my office and they're like, can you talk to us now? And I'm like, I'll give you 5 minutes, which turned into an hour. They showed me what was going to become the nighttime material. And I was very intrigued by the fact that the FDA actually certified this, that it could be worn for 9 to 12 hours. And they actually got the FDA certification 100%. No material had ever done that. Now, the reason that it's so special is for 3 reasons. Okay. So the first, and Locke Fan, the creator of the material, is just a genius at resins. Okay. He's got a bunch of patents, maybe like close to 500, not all in the ortho space, but if you look in the ortho space, he's the most accomplished. So Locke created something called an air shell. So the way their trays are built, just in general, he has 4 different resins, 4 different materials. They're all built the same way. It's an outside and an inside tray. It's sealed on the edge, and there's an air gap in between. If you look at every other material like FLX, SmartTrack, even 3M, so only 3 companies really make their own, well, maybe 5 now, but most companies don't make their own materials, but they all make the same concept, which is a laminated material. It's usually got polyethyl chloride on the outside, which is plastic, so it resists stain, and it's got like something flexible on the inside, like polyurethane. Okay, that's how FLX is built. If you look at SmartTrack, the polyurethane's on the outside, which is why it stains easier. Okay, so when you look at the technology with an air shell, first of all, the outside layer and the inside layer are incredibly thin. So that inside layer is always going to fit well when you change from tray to tray to tray. It's the outside layers where the magic is. So with nighttime, the material is just incredibly flexible. It really fits almost over more than one stage. And it's because of its flexibility and the fact that the layers aren't bonded together, they've reduced this stress-strain relationship. What Hook, if you ever hear of Locke talking, he'll talk about Hooke's law. And in Hooke's law, it says, as the stress goes up on the plastic, so does the strain on the tooth. In this case, if the tooth is out of whack because the 2 layers aren't bonded together, the inside layer still fits very well, and the outside layer is separated, so it just twists. So if you look at the amount of force being applied to the teeth, whether it's day 1 or day 7, it's aimed to be around 150 grams. Now, if you look at a typical aligner coming from a manufacturer, let's say Angel, Spark, and Align, any of these big companies, Clear, whoever, I don't care where you use it from, you could see forces up to 700-800 grams, right? And, we call it a cliff dive because, you put the tray on, it's very tight. And then over a few days, it dies, right? And as it dies, it's going to force the tooth to move for the wrong reasons sometimes. So you get undermining resorption versus frontal, resorption and bone apposition on the back end of a tooth. And as a result of that, what you're seeing is teeth are moving, but they're really, in my mind, more susceptible to relapse, right? Because all of a sudden you take this force off and then they're running for the fences, right? The teeth are all over the place because, you took this heavy force off. When you have this light force, it's kind of really not that heavy. What you find out is when you take the tray off and you put the tray back on, there's not a lot of difference to the tooth, right? We're not overstressing the tooth. So that's my belief of why nighttime is working for me, right? But nighttime is their only material where they say if you don't wear it full time, it'll still work. And I have to say, 150 or more cases in, I can honestly tell you it does work. Now, it doesn't work on everybody the same. And I definitely have people wearing it for 9 hours a day. And I tell them, if you wear it for 9 hours a day, we're going to build you in a sprint, meaning I'll build you 20 trays or more. I don't care. When I get to 20, I'm just rescanning you. I don't want to do refinement. I just don't believe in it. I believe in being forward facing on the patient. And when things don't look good, then I want to get you, and whether it's a smart STL or a real scan, I want to refine it, rebuild it, if you will, build forward, as I say, on the fly, right? So one of the things I will say, so I believe what makes the most sense today is I think teledentistry should be used with all clear aligner systems. Okay. Because, when people tell me, well, if patients come in, I can see what's going on, I'm going to call bunk on that. Okay. Your eye is not as good of a scanner, right? And I think I can see pretty good things, but it's like I'm wearing glasses. I have loops, on any given moment, if someone upsets me, my judgment is going to be off a little bit. When you looking in it, on a video on a phone, especially like an iPhone or something, the camera is phenomenal, right? You can see really well. I just need to see if you're in the ballpark or not, right? And depending on how far you're off, that determines whether I want to scan you and build you forward or not. So I think it's really just clever, right? When, and my entire practice is custom made products. So I have to say, my biggest problem today is I don't have enough employees. I can't find them, let alone hire them. So, using custom-made appliances and teledentistry has really helped me manage, especially clear aligners, right? And a lot of times I just tell patients, wear it an extra week, you should be better. And a lot of times That's all it is. Because not everybody is the same. So the same thing with this nighttime material. They say 9 to 12 hours. I don't tell people that. I tell people 9 to 12 contiguous hours is the minimum of what you need, right? And I want you to wear it more than that. And I think if you're in between probably 15 to 18 hours, you're going to be great. Most people are willing to do that because that means you can have it off at work or school and still pretty much do what you want. And for me, that's been just an absolute game changer, because when I tell people that, they're like, well, how come all my friends have to wear it all the time? I'm like, well, different product. That's all. And the thing about it is this is the only company out of the 100 companies making aligners that does it this way. So they're very disruptive. Again, they have a deep, deep knowledge set of what's the industry about. And, and even if it is close, but not perfect, I can always then say, okay, come on in, I can scan you and I can build you 2 retainers and deliver them in the same day, because I've got, both the Lux Creo system and thermoforming at my fingertips. And I'm a huge ULab user. So it's that's just my thought.
Yep. And, I want to touch on it. We have just a minute or so left, but it does seem like there are obviously there are doctor benefits here, patient benefits. I think nighttime is, of everything we've talked about, a huge, I would say, marketing hook. Do you use that in the way that you promote the practice?
It's interesting. I don't like to back myself in the corner and tell people you can wear for 12 hours a day. I wait till I talk to them and I say, tell me your handcuffs. Tell me what I can't do. And when time is a factor, that's when I pull that out of my bag and surprise them, right? Because it's always nicer to offer them more than they expect in return, right? Other than promise, for the stars and then fall short and then look like, you're just not that good. You're like everybody else. You just promise, and you fall short. So, but I make people own it a little bit. You have to be consistent, right? The name of the game is being consistent. The biggest, I will say this, unquestionably, the biggest comment I've heard repeatedly with this material is it doesn't hurt. Just over and over and over about how comfortable it is. So especially when someone is sensitive, or I have someone with sensory integration issues, I see a lot of special needs things, adults and kids, and it does very well for that.
So listen, it sounds like we need to have you back and dive into some of the topics we talked about today to go even deeper. But in the meantime, if we have questions for you, if our audience has questions for you, how might they best reach you?
Oh, that's easy. You can always email me. My email's super easy. It's Dr. Neil, DRNEIL, just like my scrub, at getitstraight.com. You can always come and see me. I'm in the near future, I'll be the orthodontist lecturing at the midwinter meeting in February in Chicago. I'm sure I'll be on the floor at the AAO. I get thrown out for various events throughout the year always. And, I love being a part of solutions and helping people. It's kind of what I enjoy. So it's never a stretch, and I don't mind calling people back at the end of a day. So, and you can reach out to me through any number of the social media options out there. It's I'm on all that as well.
Great. Well, appreciate that. Well, thank you again for joining us today. We appreciate it. We'll see you at the AAO, I'm sure. And in the meantime, happy and healthy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Neil.
My pleasure.
You can subscribe or download other episodes of the Golden Age of Orthodontics on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed it, we'd appreciate you telling a colleague. For more information about people in practice, you can visit our website at pplpractice.com.
I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. And if you have any marketing questions, you could shoot me an email at leon@pplpractice.com. I want to take this opportunity also to welcome KL Owen and Grin as our new sponsors. We talked about customized appliances and some remote monitoring for aligners today. So if you're looking for a special deal, go to our website at pplpractice.com and go to our partner page. And I want to leave you with what I've left you with every podcast for the last 4 years, which is my strong feeling and belief that it's never been a better time to be an orthodontist. We're in the golden age right now, and you need to take advantage of it. So, till next time, bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit our website at thegoldenageoforthodontics.com for direct links to both the audio and video versions of this episode.